All right. Welcome to the first ever episode of Day Trading Diaries. It is a long time coming that I've wanted to start a podcast. Just wasn't necessarily sure exactly what I wanted to revolve it around. I was looking for something that I'd be interested in, something that I think would be relatable. And so here we are. Picked up day trading a few months ago and didn't really find too many areas that I felt like I 100% fit in terms of the finance world and not having a very traditional business or finance background. So I thought, what the hell? Why not me? Why not us? And started to put this together. So I started a website, degendaytrader.com, and now we are here. So this is episode one. We're just going to kind of go off the cuff and fuck it, we're doing it live. So here we go. Episode one, baby. So, as I was saying, this is the first episode of the Day Trading Diaries where, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want this podcast to really entail in terms of it being obviously informative, but more so the approach that I was trying to take and bring forward was the idea of having a place where non-traditional finance business people that are looking to get involved in that area will feel comfortable to kind of come listen, come learn, come hear about others people's experiences with it. Because when I first started getting into it, it can be a very intimidating field, and when it's intimidating like that, you don't want to be the one to ask questions or get looked at funny or feel stupid or out of place. And so I really thought that there was an area of need for it, because I thought, it's great. This can be something great where it can be informative. You can learn about other people in the day trading world. There are so many different strategies and goals and analytics and technical analysis and types of tradings and futures and cryptos and whatever. And I am nowhere near an expert. And I think this is a good opportunity for not only myself to learn, but also for anyone else that wants to tune in and listen. And believe me, if you have and I mean any feedback on maybe segments or things to do that might be fun or interesting or a little bit out of the ordinary in terms of getting information across that I think would be beneficial to hear, not only news wise, but current events, even sports, gambling, whatever it may be. So, that's kind of my intro. And in terms of kind of going into the next area that I wanted to talk about was this name, Golden Goose Gerrity. So if you don't know who I am, that's my name, Gerrity. But essentially, how this came about is pretty funny, because after a few months of being in the trading world, I was still trying to figure out what my trading style was going to be. And it was a lot of trial and error. And there's always this cycle of trading that they tell you about in terms of having that beginner's luck and trader's luck and feeling comfortable and confident, and then getting absolutely shit on and just not following rules or not seeing the charts and thinking the market's out to get you, and everything that you think is going to happen, the opposite actually happens, which I've been on that side so many times. And you have to try to find different ways to figure out what style is going to work best for you. And that's one of the things that I love about this kind of community, is that there are so many different types of trading and strategies, and everyone that I've come across in the community that I've been a part of with Keanu Trades. And if you haven't, go check out their Discord. It's been absolutely incredible. And everyone is so super helpful, really wants to inform others, help each other, asking questions. People are more than willing to like jump on calls or jump in Discord rooms and voice calls and whatever it may be. It's awesome to see, and that's not something that I originally felt like I had when I was first getting into this trading world. And so going back to the Golden Goose nickname, after having a little bit of beginner's luck and getting more involved in the trading side of things and looking up more strategies and stuff like that, I've always been the type of person to feel like once I am intrigued about something or feel like I am very interested in it, I'm obsessed with it. I become absolutely obsessed with it, no matter what it is. I've done that can be a good and a bad thing, but to each their own. So that with that, it's been with gaming. I've done streaming. I've done writing, blogging. Now it could be even like sports. I'm a huge Giants, Yankees, Devils fan. You know, everything in between. I have gotten involved in and have really just become obsessed with. And when I'm not doing my normal day job, I am now putting all my effort into learning about trading and other TAs and what other people are learning and doing. And it's that's the thing that I love about trading so far is because it is there's never you're never going to be done learning. There's never going to be a moment where you finish a book and you're like, well, I know it all now. There's always new theories and strategies that are out there, but and the reason I bring that up is because as I was going through this process of learning and just digging through different kind of content creators or other traders out there that are posting kind of their trades or their call outs or their different technical analysis and how they view charts and what their thought process is. That's super intriguing and interesting to me because everything is so new and there isn't like a right or a wrong way or preconception that I have that would kind of hurt my ideals of being opposed to like learning a different style. But so I was actually doing some random YouTube searching on different trading styles and on Twitter, whatever, and came across King Capital, and King Capital just dropped a new video on this golden goose strategy. And I was pretty down bad at this point with my trading. I wasn't down bad in terms of financially. I just felt like I wasn't seeing charts clearly or like anything that I was kind of feeling like I was seeing. I was second guessing myself, and then the opposite would happen, and the price action wasn't what I was experiencing, and I was getting so frustrated because after putting all this time into reading books and studying and going through all these that's my pup going through all these different ways to learn and putting all this time in and then not seeing immediate results after not sustaining consistent results, I'll say. I was looking for something else to kind of use and implement. And so came across this Golden Goose Strategy YouTube video that Coach Dipka did over there at King Capital. And it already had a few areas that I used in terms of indicators and confluence in my trading style. So I was very big on, supply and demand zones and support and resistance. That was really where I started my trading style was the supply and demand zones, and this kind of plays off of that as well, but bringing more of the Fibonacci retracement side of things into it, because it also brought in pattern trading and as well as adding MACD and volume confirmation, and also the psychology behind the types of trading and the candlestick movement and all these things that really kind of combined into one place, that also made it very visually easy to see when to enter trades, when to exit trades, what your price targets were, what you were looking for, and it literally gave me a checklist to go through of what I would be able to do if I was going to make a trade. So if it had 1, 2, 3 areas of confluence that I was looking for at this level in a trade, whether it was call or puts, whatever, it didn't matter. But once I set that up, I started becoming really successful with it, and kind of putting my own twist on it in terms of different time frames. And I'll get into another episode of just the Golden Goose side of things, because it is super, super interesting, and I am still learning and doing a bunch of different theories and hypothesis on it in terms of what will work and what doesn't work with it. I've had a very good few weeks with it recently, which is where the nickname came from and originated from. And so that is a long story short about how I got that nickname and how this all started just a few months ago, I'd say in January. Speaking of which, kind of go into the next area of the podcast and the next section, which is, what is a degen? Well, to tell you what a degen is, we have to go back quite a few years, because quite a few years ago, when I was, I would say in middle school at this point, the second that I found one of those sketchy offshore gambling websites and poker sites, whether it was betonline.ag or whatever, I was very intrigued by that, and being able to put money and make money on things that I felt like I was very knowledgeable in terms of sports, and specifically, football and basketball, NBA and college. But that's where it kind of stemmed from. I've always been a sports fanatic, played sports growing up, and then I stopped growing, so that career ended pretty shortly and quickly. But after that, I was still intrigued by it. I was still intrigued by everything in terms of the team aspect, in terms of the different types of kind of plays and game plans that teams would have, more so on the football side of things. Being the diehard Giants fan that I am, it's been a rough few years. I had a good few years there in the past, but to each their own. We'll see what Kayvon and Evan Neal can do this year, and Brian Daboll, super excited about that, and Joe Shane, he's a stud. So that'll be interesting, which I'm sure I'll be getting into this podcast at some point during the football season on. But going back to the degen side of things, and what it is just that, being a degenerate. Whether it's not having a problem, it is basically never settling and not really knowing when to get out or cut your losses or take a win, or always wanting more. I kind of look at it as never settling, not being complacent, always kind of wanting that next thing, and always seeing that next goal. And that's kind of where I've struggled with myself personally, is not giving myself credit at times when I have been and done things well, but not taking the time to appreciate that, and then just going on to the next thing and being like, okay, well, what's the next goal? I did this. Now what's next? How do we get there? How do I turn this $100 gain to an $1,000 gain? What do I need to do to get there? How do I do that? And so when I started doing that and started doing the gambling, and then I started, a blog and a podcast about that a little bit, going through college, and it was a lot of fun, but of course, it's not really sustainable, especially when you're focusing on school and college and extracurricular activities, whether it was Greek life or clubs or whatever it may be. So after that kind of stopped, and then I grew up a little bit and started thinking, let's once I started having a full time job and being like, okay, I got to think about the future. Let's put money in the stock market. And I had a buddy of mine that I worked with who was a few years older than me at this job, and we became really good friends. And he, after 2 years, he left and moved to California for another job, but he was much more mature than I was. He was very financially stable. He was just an intelligent guy. Like when you sat down with him and he just spoke, he just came off as like he knew so much about everything. And it was always, like I was always so impressed with how he carried himself and how he kind of gathered all this information, but also understood it so clearly, and how he was able to like explain it to someone like myself who you need to dumb it down for quite a bit. And so when we were obviously building our friendship, he told me, I was like, hey, I need to start investing in things. I need to start, making my money work for money. I want my money to make money. How do I do that? You can't settle on one area and one source of income. You need multiple streams of income. I want to get to the point where I have the freedom to do what I want when I want. And yeah, maybe I am bougie and I like nice things at times. So what? That's why I'm working for it. If you say you're not motivated by money, you're fucking lying. I don't believe you. Not one bit. So when he told me this after I asked him that. He said, invest in stocks and companies of the things that you use most often. And when he told me that day, I went home and I ended up just putting my money in the stock market in Apple, Google, Amazon, Zoom, all those things that I felt like I was using on a pretty regular basis. And of course that did really well for me. That was quite a few years ago, before Apple blew up. I was in Apple when it was under $70, which was great, and it's fantastic. But then going to how this pertains to the Degen side of things is, well, this goes to a few months ago when we're a little more mature, a little more grown up. My wife and I, we were over at a friend's house, my buddy who I've known since kindergarten, him and his fiance. We were having dinner, sitting down, and he was showing me and talking to me. We were talking to me about the economy. This was in January, and kind of the new year and what we thought was going to happen, and COVID and all these things, and just the finances of life, and having the anxiety tidal wave come over you, and you realize that you gotta buckle down and grow up, and adult. And adulting is never fun, especially when you're just like, well, I still feel like I'm a kid, but you gotta grow up. And so we were sitting down, we were talking, and he was talking to me about. He was like, "Hey, have you ever done stock options and options trading?" And I was like, "No, like I think I've understood the concept of it. Everyone's seen The Big Short and Wall Street and all those movies about." If you think, going long on a position or short on a position, but I never really understood the technicals of it, or how it worked, or what the process was with contracts and premiums and long calls and puts and whatever it may be, and expirations and premiums and what it all meant. And when he was showing me what and how it worked. He was breaking it down and showing me like an example of, okay, well, if I think that the stock is going to go up, $100, and I take a call at this premium price of $1, which would cost me $100 to have that for that contract and those 100 contracts, and the value of those contracts goes up and the premium goes up, then you have and can sell that contract for the difference of what you paid for. And he was showing me these trades that he made where he was making, $400 or $500 in just a few minutes. And I'm thinking, hell yeah. How do I get into that? What the hell is that? How do we do it? Where do I sign up? What is it called? Where do I go? And then he hit me with the most devastating line ever. He said, it's like gambling, but educated gambling. And my ears fucking shot up. I said, what? Educated gambling? Like an edge? Like I have an edge? Like I know who's going to be hurt, or I know who went out the night before and drank a little too much, and who's going to be hungover for the game, or let's say someone got broken up with, a player on the team. I have that type of information. He was like, yeah, like basically, yeah, like you do and you bet on yourself and what you think the market's going to happen. And right then and there, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. That night, I went home, joined a Discord, started reading, bought a book, and I was entrenched in it at that point. And that's a part of the Degen lifestyle that I felt like I have embraced, being the degenerate douchebag that I am, which is fantastic and I love it. But at the same time, it's a thing where, and this is a part of what the podcast is and what the podcast is going to be about, is, my first initial introduction to the trading world and Discords and trying to learn is, it can be a very, very intimidating place, especially if you do not have a traditional finance business background or trading background and you're coming in blind. And not to say that I was just asking, what's a contract or what's a call or what's a put, but you were almost embarrassed to ask questions to people, hoping that they would answer you and not think that you were just a dumbass not doing homework or anything. And it's intimidating. And you're on your own too. At the end of the day, yes, people, you can pay for call outs and plays and whatever, but you want to be able to have your own confidence and have your own plays to grow and grow your portfolio. And, going full port is Degen move. Been there, done that. That was also part of the reason why I started the podcast, was this past week, which we'll get into at a later date. But I have some good stories about that. But that's kind of where this podcast is going, is being able to bridge that gap between people who want to get into day trading, but maybe who aren't 100% sure where to start or what to look for, or what the playbook is or what the right resources are, and also giving a place for people to come on and kind of share their experiences and their stories about what's worked well for them, what hasn't, what's been a really big Degen move. Did you full port something and you lost it all? Or did you full port something and you made 40K? Or, you found a penny stock that blew up and the market got pumped, or you were part of meme stocks like AMC and GameStop, and what you were looking at and all these different technical analyses and trading styles and strategies. I want all of that to be in one place for people to come in and, one, feel comfortable, two, make it fun and easy and exciting, and just a conversation with kind of your friends, having a few drinks around a fire, shooting the shit. That's what I want. And that's what I feel like I can provide to some extent with the platform like this, having the opportunity that I am in the same spot as these people. I've only been doing this a few months. Like I said, I really started at the end of February, and I started kind of learning at the end of January. I'm such a noob and beginner. It is unfathomable. It is absolutely ridiculous. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. You're going to fuck up. You're going to screw up. You're going to lose money. If you're not, you need to go in to this expecting to lose money. The goal of it is not to make money, it's to not lose money. If you lose money less times than you make money, you're going to be successful. And that's where the managing risk comes into play, and all these other areas of rules and sticking to your rules and stop losses and just stupid things that I do that wake me up in the middle of the night from a dead sleep, sweating, just knowing how dumb it was and just holding on to stupid ass contracts that already depleted 50%, just knowing like, oh well, fuck. It's already at 50%, it can't go much lower, right? Like, it'll reverse. Just telling myself that and not playing with emotion. This is what I want to do. This is where I want it to be relatable. I don't want all butterflies and rainbows. I want honest conversations. I want talks. I want people being vulnerable. I want people telling the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. That's what I want. That is my goal. So, but lastly, this is just a very introductory podcast. This one, first episode, Memorial Day weekend, and wanted to put this out there, see if it caught any legs. I don't know how often I'm going to be putting out an episode. I think it's going to be depending on, obviously, my full-time job and my personal life with a few other things. But this is something that I'm definitely very committed to with the website, Degen, daytrader.com, as well as the Discord and the community with Keanu Trades and the Degen Discord, and everyone is just really supportive of this and what we're doing. So I'm obviously going to be bringing people on from there to talk about kind of their different strategies and their experiences as well. But to close out the show, wanted to do and just kind of go over some quick, I guess, news that I wanted to kind of talk about that I thought was pretty interesting, just with kind of the Memorial Day weekend and long weekend coming up here, and how the market just bulldozed through. Speaking of which, I was in puts all week. So the first thing is Y Combinator, the VC firm, basically came out and said that companies need to start cutting their costs and to increase their cash flow and their cash position. And their quote is, understand that the poor public market performance of tech companies significantly impacts VC funding. Now, I know this hasn't been the greatest market for IPOs, even going into last year. And IPOs can be very volatile even when the market is good. But even since the market and the IPO market hasn't been great for the past 6 months to a year, where people have been delaying or withdrawing IPO submissions and not going IPO, and every IPO that has actually gone through since November or December last year is actually trading lower than what their IPO price was. For a VC firm like Y Combinator to come out and say that now again is definitely not very reassuring long term. Now, I don't know what the short term is in terms of that, because again, I am very new to this. I mostly do intraday trading. I don't really do contracts out very far out or anything like that. So, but I just found this very, very interesting on that side of things. As well as Jerome Powell J Pow, our guy J Pow. Uh, I love these FOMC things and the minutes because it's basically him just telling us and reiterating everything that we already know about the market and the economy and what's going on. Um, and when he initially said, 50 basis points, and we're not really exploring the idea of going to 75 or higher, but then said, later on, if the time comes where we need to evaluate that, we may, but then also not really saying that they're sticking with 50, 50, 50 over the next three, minutes and quarters and basis points. And then the best line of all time, the softish landing. Well, J Pow, what the fuck does that mean? Softish landing. That's like starting off a sentence saying, no offense, but you know it's bad. You know it is bad. It's going to be bad. I guess technically we're in a recession already, but we're on the brink of a recession. On top of the the war, the supply chain, the global economy, just the disruption that is affecting everything on top of this domestically in terms of the economics is absolutely wild. And the last thing that you want from the Fed chair is using the term softish landing. Like, yikes. Big yikes. Going to Tesla real quick. Tesla got downgraded twice in the past week for their price target. Now, when I was reading it, I would have thought, short Tesla this week, even it being, 6:30, and short Tesla with this, along with the Twitter deal and the influx of that information and that being so back and forth and up and down and inconsistent. I thought there was so much just unknown around it. And then to have the price target to be downgraded from 1100 or 1150 to 800 range by two different organizations, I did not expect Tesla to rally as hard as it did going into MDW at all, especially with like the sexual harassment lawsuit remaining public and all those other things. I really didn't expect it. I really didn't. And I was absolutely blown when that happened. Absolutely blown. And then another thing I thought this was absolutely wild was, even with the bearish sentiment around the market, with bad news, and despite the bad news and despite the bad earnings, stocks like Nvidia managed to reverse to the upside and end the week positive, and positive like 5% or 5.5%. Like, when you're a retail trader like me and you're seeing those reports come out, you're not expecting a move to the upside. You just aren't. But algos, man. Algos. Stocks only go up. Bottom. Unreal. And then, lastly, this is something that really caught my eye, that I thought was very important to share with the people. The U.S. personal savings fell to 2013 levels. The savings rate fell to 2008 levels. All while credit card debt grew at a record-setting rate back to pre-COVID pace. Basically saying that a recession is almost certain at this point. No idea exactly when, how hard, how long, how fast. That's what she said. Get your head out of the gutter. But recession is almost guaranteed to come, and same thing with earnings. There's going to be blood in the water. Earnings reports are going to be in trouble over the next few quarters. And to end on a good note for the first episode of Day Trading Diaries. At least if you are able to trade and not even be green, but not lose all your money in this type of market right now, that's a huge W. That means you're doing something right. That means you're on the right track. But from me to you and all my Degens, I love you. I have a great Memorial Day weekend. MDW, Jersey Shore, get after it. Let's have a day. Let's have a weekend. How we doing? Degens, day traders. I don't know when the next episode is going to be, but it'll be soon. We may see you Sunday night for some stories on this past week and my major degenning, but I'm hoping to have also a few interviews set up for next week. So to my degens out there, stay degenning.